Everybody, and welcome. We're so glad that you are with us. Tonight is Favorite Bible Stories. This is our first pre-festival gathering event, our first of 4, and they will take place every 2 weeks until the virtual festival gathering, August 6th and 7th. If you haven't pre-registered, please do so, because soon after this event, the early bird rate will disappear. So if you want the discount, please do so. We have many wonderful biblical storytellers tonight, and they are ready to share with you some dynamic stories of the Bible. So let's get right to it. And our first storyteller will be Barbara Tucker. She's been a member of MBSI for 8 years and is a certified biblical storyteller. And I believe she's going to tell us a story from Acts 8, the story of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch.
This mysterious story is one of my favorites. An angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Go toward the south, to the road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." Now, this is a wilderness road. Philip got up and went. At the same time, there was a eunuch, a court official of the Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, in charge of her entire treasury. Sitting in his chariot, he was reading from the prophet Isaiah. The Spirit said to Philip, "Go over and join that chariot." So Philip went, and he began to run alongside the chariot. He heard the man reading from the prophet Isaiah, and he said, "Stand, what you're reading." The eunuch said, "How can I unless someone guides me?" So he invited Philip to get in and sit down beside him. Now, the passage from the prophet Isaiah that he was reading is this: "Like a sheep, he was led to the slaughter. Like a lamb before its shearers is silent, he does not open his mouth. In his humiliation, justice was denied him. Who can describe this generation? For his life is taken away from the earth." The eunuch asked Philip, "Now, about whom is the prophet speaking? About himself or about someone else?" Philip began to speak. And at that very time, starting with that very scripture, he proclaimed to him the good news about Jesus. As they were traveling along, they came to some water, and the eunuch said, "Look, there is water. What is to prevent me from being baptized?" Philip and the eunuch went down into the water, and Philip baptized him. Coming up out of the water, Philip was snatched away by the Spirit. The eunuch saw him no more and went on his way rejoicing. But Philip, he found himself in Azotus. And as he moved through the territory, he told the story of the good news in every town until he came to Caesarea.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for that. We are going to move now to Sandia Rubin, who is India's first certified biblical storyteller. And she has a she's a master level ABS student. She loves people and their stories. She's a pastor's wife and mother of two beautiful girls. We're so happy to have her all the way from India. Sandia?
Thank you, Remington. Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm really not sure why the feedback is there. All right, greetings, everyone. Tonight I'm going to bring you a story from Genesis. Whenever I begin speaking, there's some feedback. So
All right. We will figure out what was going on there. And come back. Okay, I think what we're going to do, we're going to move on to Mike Poteet, who, until we get Sandia's problem settled, her feedback problem. Mike is an ordained minister of the Word and Sacrament in the PCUSA. He serves a larger church as a writer of Christian education, and he's going to tell us the story of the healing of Naaman, 2 Kings 5. Go ahead, Michael.
Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man and highly esteemed by his master, because by him the Lord, the God of Israel, had given Aram victory. The man was a mighty warrior, but his skin was diseased. Now, on one of their raids, the Arameans took captive a young girl from the land of Israel. She served Naaman's wife and said to her mistress, "If only master were with the prophet in Samaria, we would cure him of his skin disease." So Naaman went in and told his master just what the young girl from the land of Israel had said. The king of Aram said, "Go then and I will send with you a letter to Israel's king. So Naaman went, carrying with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, 10 sets of clothes. He brought the letter to Israel's king. It read, when you receive this letter, know that I have sent to you my servant Naaman, that you may cure him of his skin disease. When the king of Israel read that, he tore his clothes and said, am I God to deal out death and life, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his skin disease? Just look and see how he's trying to pick a quarrel with me. But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that Israel's king had torn his clothes, he sent him a message. Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me, that he may know there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and halted at the threshold of Elisha's house. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, go, wash in the Jordan River 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. But when Naaman heard this, he was furious. He said, I thought surely for me he would come out and stand and call on the Lord his God by name and wave his hand over the spot and cure the skin disease. Aren't the Abana and Pharpar, the rivers back in Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be clean? And he turned and stalked away in a rage. His servants approached him. Father, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, wouldn't you have done it? How much the more when all he says to you is, wash and be clean? So Naaman went down and dipped himself in the Jordan River 7 times, according to the word of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like a young boy's, and he was clean. He returned to the man of God, he and his whole retinue. He came and stood before him and said, now I know there is no God in all the world except the Lord. Please accept a gift from your servant. But Elisha said to him, as the Lord lives, whom I stand before, I will accept nothing. Naaman urged him, but Elisha refused. Then Naaman said, at least let 2 mule loads of earth be given your servant, for your servant will never again worship any god except the Lord. Only for one thing may the Lord pardon your servant. When my master goes to the temple of Rimmon to worship, leaning on my arm so that I must bow low in the temple of Rimmon, when I do bow low in Rimmon's temple, may the Lord pardon your servant for this one thing. Elisha said to him, go in peace. But when he had gone from him a short distance, Gehazi, servant of Elisha, the man of God, thought, my master has let this Aramaean Naaman off too lightly by refusing to accept what he offered. As the Lord lives, I'll go after him and get something out of him. And he went after Naaman. When Naaman saw someone running behind him, he jumped down from his chariot and asked, is all well? All is well, said Gehazi. But my master sends me to tell you 2 youths from a company of prophets in the hill country of Ephraim have just now come to me. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 sets of clothes? Naaman said, please take 2 talents. And he wrapped up the 2 talents of silver with the clothes in bags for him and sent 2 of his men to carry the bags in front of Gehazi. Well, when Gehazi reached the citadel, he took the things and put them inside. He dismissed the men and they left. And then he went in to stand before his master, who said to him, Gehazi, where have you come from? Your servant hasn't gone anywhere at all. Did I not go with you in spirit when the man got down from his chariot to meet you? Is this a time to be accepting money and clothes and olive orchards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and male and female slaves? May Naaman's skin disease cling to you and your descendants forever. And Gehazi left Elisha's presence, his skin diseased, as white as snow. The story of God for the people of God.
Thank you, Mike. That was wonderful, wonderful story. I really enjoyed that. I think we're going to try Sandia again. Are we ready? We had some feedback problems. This is a new format. All right. You say something?
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes. All right. We got it fixed. All right. So Sandia, again, is our first certified biblical storyteller from India. She's in the master's level right now in the Academy for Biblical Storytelling. She is a pastor's wife and a mother of 2 beautiful children. Sandia, take it away.
All right.
This evening, I have for you a story from the book of Genesis, which is really a favorite of mine. And Jacob journeyed towards the land of the people of the east, and he looked before him a well, a large well, and 3 flocks of sheep waiting there to be watered, for it was out of this well that they would be. And the stone covering the mouth of the well was really round, so the shepherds had to roll the stone away, water the sheep, and come out of the well again. So Jacob went by, and when he went there, he saw a group of men, and he said, "Where are you from, brothers?" And they said, "We are from Haran. Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? Is it well with him?" Yes, it is well with him. Look, here comes his daughter Rachel. And look, she comes to you with her sheep.
And Jacob lifted his eyes and saw Rachel. And he immediately told the men, "Look, it's broad daylight. It's not even time for you to pasture this flock. Why don't you just water them and take them away?" But the men said, No. We have to wait till all the sheep get here, then we water them. Now Rachel came to the well with her flock of sheep, and Jacob immediately rolled the stone away and watered the sheep of his mother's brother Laban. He then lifted up his voice and he cried and kissed Rachel and said, "I am your kinsman." And Rachel immediately ran back with the news to Laban, and Laban came to the well and embraced Jacob and kissed him on either cheek. And he said, "You are the bone of my bone and the flesh of my flesh. You must abide with me now. You must abide with me." And Jacob stayed with Laban for a month. After the interval of a month had passed, Laban said, "Just because you are my kinsman, it does not mean to say that you will work for me for free, Jacob. Tell me, name your wages." Now Laban had daughters. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was graceful and beautiful, and Jacob loved Rachel. And he said, I will work 7 years for you for Rachel's hand in marriage. And Laban said, it is better for me to give her to you than to any other man. It's okay, you can go and work. I will give her to you. And so Jacob worked for 7 years, and the days flew by because he was in love with Rachel. When his years were past, he went to Laban for her hand in marriage. And Laban said, but first we gather all the people and we make a big feast. And when all the people were gathered and a big feast was made, when it was time for Jacob to go into the tent, Laban sent Leah with her handmaid Zilpah instead. And Jacob went into Leah, and in the morning he discovered what had happened. And so he quickly went back to Laban and said, have I not served 7 years for Rachel's hand? And is this what you do to me? And Laban said, it is not customary in my land to give the younger in marriage before the older one. You fulfill her week, and then you work another 7 years for me. I will give Rachel in your hands. Go now, do your work. And so Jacob worked another 7 years for Rachel's hand in marriage. And when the time was come, Laban gave Rachel to be Jacob's wife along with her handmaid Bilhah. And as time passed, Rachel saw that she could not bear children. And so she became envious of Leah and said to Jacob, give me children or I will die. And Jacob was so angry with Rachel that he said, am I God that I'm stopping the fruit of your womb? And Rachel said, take my handmaid Bilhah, go to her, that she may at least bear a son, and people will say that I have had children through her. So Jacob went into Bilhah, and she conceived, bore a son. And she said, for God heard me and judged me, and she named him Dan. And Bilhah conceived again and bore a son. And now Rachel said, with many wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and finally I have prevailed. I am going to name him Naphtali. And now when Leah saw that she stopped bearing, she gave her handmaid Zilpah to Jacob and said, go into her, so she may have children, and I may be called as a mother of sons through her. So Zilpah conceived and bore a son. And Leah said, good fortune, I am going to name him Gad. And Zilpah conceived again and bore a son. And Leah said, everyone around me is happy. I am going to call him Asher. And it was time for the wheat harvest when Reuben, the firstborn, was returning with some mandrakes in his hand. And Rachel was standing at the door of her tent. And she asked Leah, can I have some of those mandrakes? Leah said, is it not a big deal that you've taken away my husband from me, and now you want my mandrakes? And Rachel said, well, he will lie with you tonight, those mandrakes. And so she got them from Leah's hand. It was evening, and Jacob was coming back to his tent, and he saw Leah standing at the tent door. And she said, you have to lie with me tonight, because I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. And Jacob went into Leah, and she conceived and bore a son. And she said, God has given me my hire, and named him Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and she bore a son. And she said, now I have a good dowry. I have borne my husband 6 sons. I will name this one Zebulun. I will name him Zebulun, for honor and glory that he has brought to me. And she thereafter bore a daughter named Dinah. Now God remembered Rachel now, and opened her womb. And Rachel brought forth a son. And she said, the Lord has rolled away my reproach. And she named him Joseph. And she quickly added and said, may the Lord give me another son. It was time to move on. And as they were journeying from Bethel towards Ephrath, Rachel, who is now pregnant, went into hard labor. And the midwife said to her, "Do not worry, you will see the face of your son." And as Rachel gave birth to her son, her spirit left her. Before leaving, she quickly named him Benoni, the son of my sorrow. But Jacob entered and renamed him immediately and said, "I will call him Benjamin, the son of my right hand." And Rachel died on the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. Rachel was buried there, and a pillar of stones was erected in Rachel's memory. And it still stands there as the pillar of Rachel until today. And Israel and all of the others moved forward and pitched their tents beyond Adair. This is the story of God for the people of God.
Thank you, Sandia. Wonderful telling. I always enjoy listening to you. We are going to move now to Ellen Morrell. She's going to tell a story that happened a little bit before that one, the story of Hagar in the desert from Genesis 21. Oh, no, we're going to go to Elizabeth Atkinson. We're having trouble with Ellen. Elizabeth is an ABS certified master biblical storyteller. She's offered various festival gathering workshops in the US and Canada, and she's going to tell us the death and resurrection story in John of Lazarus. So thank you, Elizabeth.
There was a certain man, Lazarus of Bethany. It's a village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Mary's brother Lazarus was ill. So the sister sent a message to Jesus saying, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard the message, he said, "This illness is not unto death. It is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, even though he loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, when he heard Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then he said to his disciples, "Let us go to Judea." Well, the disciples said, "Rabbi, the Jews were just trying to stone you, and you would go there again?" Jesus said to them, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? If you walk in the day, you do not stumble, because those people see the light of the world. But those who walk at night stumble, for they do not have the light in them." And then he said to them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, and I am going to awaken him." The disciples said, "Lord, if he is sleeping, he will be all right." Now, Jesus was talking about death, but they thought that he was speaking about sleeping. So he spoke to them more plainly. "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I am not there, so that you might believe. Now, come, let us go." Thomas, the twin, he said to his fellow disciples, "Come, Let us go with him, that we may die with him. Now, when Jesus got to the village, when he arrived in the area, the Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, Bethany is not far from Jerusalem, only a couple of miles. So many Jews had come out to be with Mary and Martha to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she left the house, leaving Mary there, and she went out to meet him. And when she saw Jesus, she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that the Lord will grant you anything you ask of him. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said, I know that he will rise in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me and dies will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Martha said, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world. Now, after she said this, she went back to the house and she called Mary and said to her privately, the teacher is here and he's asking for you. Well, Mary got up and rushed out of the house. Now, Jesus was not yet to the village. He was still where Martha had met him. And the Jews who were with Mary saw her get up and run out. Well, they got up and followed her, thinking that she was going to the tomb to weep. When Mary saw Jesus, she knelt at his feet and she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Jesus saw her weeping, and all the Jews with her weeping, and he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, where have you laid him? And they said to him, Lord, come and see. And Jesus began weeping. Now, some of the Jews said, look how much he loved him. Others said, could not he who opened the eyes of a blind man kept this man from dying? Still deeply disturbed, Jesus came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone in front of it. He said, take the stone away. Martha said, Lord, there will be a stench. He has been in the tomb 4 days. Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? They took the stone away, and Jesus lifted his head and he said, Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I am saying this for the crowd gathered here, that they may know that you sent me. Then he said in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out! And Lazarus came out, dragging strips of cloth from his hands and his feet, and a piece of cloth over his head. And Jesus said, Untie him and set him free. Oh, many of the Jews who had come out to be with Mary and Martha saw what had happened, and they believed. But others went to the Pharisees and told them what had happened. This is a story of God from the children, for the children of God.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Wonderful telling of that powerful story. So glad. We're moving on. We're going to go to Tanya Isa. She is a pastor in Johnstown, which is not very far from where I am in Scotia, New York. She's completed the basic level in the Academy for Biblical Storytelling, and she's going to tell the story of Balaam's donkey in Numbers 22. So take it away, Tanya.
The Israelites set out and camped in the plains of Moab across the Jordan from Jericho. Now, Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that the Israelites had done to the Amorites, and a great dread of the people had come over the people of Moab because the people of Israel were so numerous. A great fear of the people of Israel had fallen over Moab. And the elders of Moab went to the elders of Midian, and they said, "This horde will now lick up the grass on all that is around us as an ox licks up the grass of the field." Now Balak, son of Zippor, was king of Moab at that time. And he sent messengers to Balaam, son of Beor, who was at Pethor on the river Euphrates in the land of Ammon. And he said this, "A people has come out of Egypt, and they have spread over the face of the earth, and they have settled next to me. Now, come now and curse this people for me, because they are stronger than I. Come and curse them for me, so that I might be able to drive them from the land. For I know that whoever you curse is cursed, and whoever you bless is blessed." So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fee for divination in their hands, and they came to Balaam, and they gave him Balak's message. And Balaam said, "Wait here this night, so that I may see what the Lord may speak to me about this matter." And so they stayed the night. And during the night, God came to Balaam, and he said, "Who are these men with you?" And Balaam said, "King Balak, son of Beor of Moab, has sent me this message. A people has come out of Egypt, and they've spread over the face of the earth. Come now and curse them for me, so that I might be able to defeat them and drive them from the land." And God said, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." So the next morning, Balaam arose and said to the messengers of Balak, "The Lord has refused to let me go with you, so return to your land." So the messengers returned to King Balak and said, "Well, Balaam refuses to come with us." So Balak sent more messengers, more numerous and distinguished than these. And he said, "Do not let anything hinder you from coming to me. Come, I will give you whatever honors you wish. I will give you whatever you want. Just come and curse this people for me. And Balaam said, if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could do no more nor less than what the Lord commands me. Well, you also wait here this night, and I will see what more the Lord may speak to me. So that night, God again came to Balaam and said, if these men have come to summon you, just go with them. But you do only what I tell you to do. So in the morning, Balaam arose and he saddled his donkey, and he departed with the messengers of Balak, and his 2 servants were also with him. But the Lord's anger was kindled because Balaam was going with them. And the angel of the Lord took his stand in the road to oppose Balaam, and he had a drawn sword in his hand. Ooh, the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, and it veered off the road into a field. So Balaam, well, he struck the donkey to get it back onto the road. Well, then the angel of the Lord took his stand in between 2 walls with vineyards on either side, and it was a very narrow place. And so this time the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, and it scraped up against the wall. And ow, it scraped Balaam's foot against the wall. Ow. So Balaam, well, he struck the donkey again. Well, then the 3rd time, the angel of the Lord took his stand in the road, and this time it was in a really narrow place with no room to turn either to the right or to the left. This time, when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it lay down underneath Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled against the donkey, and he took his staff and he struck the donkey with his staff. Well, then God opened the mouth of the donkey, and the donkey said to Balaam, What have I done that you have struck me these 3 times? And Balaam talked back to the donkey, by the way. He said, because you have made a fool of me. I wish that I had a sword. I would kill you right now. And the donkey said, well, am I not your donkey that you have ridden all your life until this day? Have I been in the habit of treating you like this? And Balaam said, no. Well, then God opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing there with that drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed down with his face to the ground. And the angel of the Lord said, Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? I have come out as an adversary to oppose you because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned away these 3 times. Surely if it had not, I would have killed you and let it live. And Balaam said, oh, I have sinned, for I did not see you standing there in the road. Now, if it is displeasing to you, I will return home. And the angel of the Lord said, fine, go with the men, but speak only what I tell you to speak. And so Balaam went on with the messengers of Balak and his servants. The story of God for the people of God.
Thank you, Tanya. It's such a good story. We're going to move on now to Tom Boomershine. Many of you know him. He is the founder of the Network of Biblical Storytellers International. He also is the creator of the Bible in Ancient and Modern Media with the Society of Biblical Literature. He's the author of Story Journey, The Messiah of Peace, and many other accomplishments. So not exactly sure what story he ended up on, but I'll let you introduce it, Tom. Tom, I think you're muted. Can you get your mic working? No, not hearing you. Did you mute yourself? No, still not hearing you. Maybe what we should do is move to Kathy Calmer. She is a longtime member of NBS, is a participant in the Scholars Group, is a storyteller, teacher, writer, Christian educator, and she's going to tell the story of the feeding of the 5,000 in Mark. No?
No.
No. Okay. Well, you tell whatever you're going to tell.
Okay. No, actually, I'm going to tell one of my favorite love stories from the Bible, and it is a reminder of the one who loves us with a love that won't quit, and that even when we stray, we can never stray too far away. Bring them in, bring them in, bring the lost and the wandering in. Bring them in, bring them in, bring the lost and the wandering in. It's a familiar story, and I'm sure all of you have heard it. There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger son came to his father and said, "Father, give me my share of the estate." And the father divided his property between them. Now, not long after that, the young son gathered together all that he had and set off for a distant country where he squandered all his wealth in wild living. And after he had spent everything that he had, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in want.
So he hired himself out to a citizen of the country who sent him to work in his fields, feeding his pigs. The son longed to fill his belly with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said to himself, "My father's hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am starving to death. I will get up and I will go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and I have sinned against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.'" So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him, and he ran to him and hugged him and gave him a kiss. And the son said to his father, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and I have sinned against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said, "Quick!" He called to the slaves, "Find the best robe, bring it and put it on me. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is now alive. He was lost and is now found." So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was still out in the field. And when he came near to the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called to one of the slaves to ask what was going on. And he said, Your brother has come home, and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound." But the brother became angry and refused to go in. So the father came out to him and pleaded with him. But he said to his father, "Look, I have been working like a slave all of these years for you, and I never disobeyed your commands. Yet you never even gave me a goat so I could celebrate with my friends. And now, this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, and you kill the fattened calf for him." "My son," his father said, "you are with me always, and everything that I have is yours. But we must celebrate and be glad, for this brother of yours was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. Bring them in, bring them in, bring the lost and the wandering in. Bring them in, bring them in. Let your love and your witness bring the lost ones home. This is the word of God. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Kathy. I always love when you tell. It's always so good. I always told that story many times myself, and always hear new things in it. We're going to try Tom again. Tom is, of course, the founder of the network, the founder of the Bible in Ancient and Modern Media of SBL, the author of Story Journey, The Messiah of Peace, and he should appear here any second now. Again, just a reminder while we wait for Tom to encourage you all to sign up and register for the virtual festival gathering. This is about one of the last days to get the, he's in a different area. I'm reading, a message. Like I said, this is a new forum. Hop on. I know many of us have been using Zoom, so we're all getting used to it a little bit. So I'm waiting for a message back. So again, to sign up for the festival gathering, in August, and we have the next event. We have will be Lori Rugi Jones will be leading a Bible story learning workshop 2 weeks from tonight, and then 2 weeks later we're going to have both coaching on the one hand and a lighting the fire experience going on at the same time. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to have the first keynote from Richard Ward, which would be excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing all of his talks. Let's see. Oh, we're moving on to Diane Kane. Okay. I'm still having troubles, I guess. So let's see here. She's been telling stories of the Bible and otherwise for 15 years. She's a chaplain at a private Christian academy in Texas. So welcome, Diane. Go ahead.
And I'm going to share with you the first chapter of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness penetrated the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." There was light. And God saw that the light was good. He separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and he called the darkness night. There was evening, there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault to separate waters from waters." And it was so. God created a vault to separate the waters above the vault from the waters below the vault. There was and he called this vault sky. There was evening, there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the waters below the vault be gathered together into one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the waters that had been gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the land be filled with all manner of vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees that bear fruit with seed in them. And it was so. God created seed-bearing plants according to their kind, and trees that bore fruit with seed in them according to their kind. And God saw that it was good. There was evening, there was morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the earth to separate light from darkness. These shall serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. These shall govern both light and dark, shall separate the light from the darkness, and shall give light to the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater one to govern the day, the lesser one to govern the night. And God made stars, and he spread them across the vault of the sky to govern both day and night. They separated the light from the darkness and gave light to the earth. And God saw that it was good. There was evening, there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let creatures fill the seas, and let birds fly across the vault of the sky above the earth." And it was so. God created the great creatures of the deep and the myriad of living things with which the water teem and move about in it, each according to their kind, and every winged bird according to their kind. And God blessed them. "Be fruitful, increase in number, fill the seas, and let birds abound on the earth." And God saw that it was good. There was evening, there was morning of the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land be filled with creatures, wild animals and livestock and creatures that move along the ground." And it was so. God created the livestock according to their kind, and the wild animals according to their kind, and the creatures that moved along the ground according to their kind. And God said, "Let us create mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, the livestock, the wild animals, and the creatures that moved along the ground." And it was so. God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And God blessed them. "Be fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. You shall have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, the livestock, the wild animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground. And I give you all the seed-bearing plants and the trees that bear fruit with seed in them. They are yours for food. For all the beasts of the earth and the birds of the air and the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw all that he had created, and it was very good. There was evening, there was morning of the sixth day. Thus God had finished all the work of creating he had been doing by the seventh day. And so on it he rested. He blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creation he had done. This is the account of how the earth and the heavens were created when the Lord God created heaven and earth. This is the story of God for the people of God.
Thank you, Diane. Always love hearing that story. You told it very, very well. We are going to move on to Jane Martin, who comes to us from Calgary, Alberta in Canada, and she's a virtual member of the Kamloops United Church, and which is located in Kamloops, British Columbia, and she has recently been nominated for their Council Circle, and I believe she's going to tell us the story of Jesus restoring a demon-possessed man in Luke 8. But then again, I've gotten some of these stories wrong before. So, Jane, are you there? Got to wait for her to come in. You don't have her in the backstage. All righty. Well, who do we have? She was the last one. Okay. Well, this has been a little rough start, but thank you all for being with us and enjoying these stories. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, about 9 tellers, and we're grateful for this and for this opportunity. Again, I remind you all, if you have not registered yet, please do so soon so that you can get the early bird rate, which is a good about $100 off the cost of the virtual festival gathering. Lori Ruki Jones's workshop is coming up 2 weeks from tonight. She's leading us in a story learning workshop, or just about biblical storytelling in general, and we're so glad that she can be with us. We put out a call to see if there are any more storytellers out there. All right, I'm not seeing any, so thank you all very much for being a very good audience. We're still got to work out a couple of kinks. Actually, the system works really well. It's just us who are new to it. They're still learning the ways about it. So thank you for being here. I will see you again in 4 weeks. I will be leading the lighting the fire stories on the night that there is coaching. So if you're interested in that, please look for an invitation to come and do that. We already got one star. Oh, we have Liz. Welcome, Liz. All right. Did I do your? No, I did not do your. I did Jane's introduction. Liz is a storyteller who loves bringing the stories and the verses of Bible to life. She's going to tell the story of Jesus heals a crippled woman from Luke 13. So take it away, Liz.
Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath. There was a woman who had been disabled by a spirit for 18 years. When Jesus saw her, he called her to him and said, "Woman, you have been set free from your sickness." And he placed his hands on her, and she straightened up at once and began to praise God. The leader of the synagogue, incensed because Jesus had healed on the Sabbath, responded, "There are 6 days during which work is permitted. 6 days. Be healed on one of those days and not on the Sabbath." The Lord replied, "Hypocrites! Don't each one of you on the Sabbath untie your ox or your donkey from its stall and lead it out to get a drink? Then isn't it necessary for this woman, a daughter of Abraham, bound by Satan for 18 long years. Isn't it necessary that she be set free from her bondage on the Sabbath? Well, when he said these things, all those who had opposed him were put to shame. But all those in the crowd were rejoicing because all the extraordinary things he was doing. This is the story of God for the people of God.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you very much. And found out we have another teller to join us. We have Cliff Babarak, who may be doing it just audio. Cliff is an associate professor at Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas. He's be our third Texan tonight. He loves using biblical storytelling in his classes to increase students' understanding and appreciation for biblical stories. He's going to be telling us three stories: the rich ruler, the blind beggar, and Zacchaeus, as they appear in Luke. Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. They asked me to test it here.
All right.
Well, yeah, I hadn't been planning to tell that my video. I'm not sure why the video isn't working, but happy to tell the story, and hopefully this will be a blessing. It is, I want to tell three stories, the stories that are, I think, need to be heard together, but that often are not heard together because they run across a chapter break from Luke 18 to Luke 19. So I want to tell these three together, and hopefully maybe you'll be able to imagine some connections between these stories after hearing them. A certain ruler asked Jesus, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Why do you call me good?" Jesus answered. "No one is good but God alone. You know the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not murder. Do not steal. Do not bear false testimony. Honor your father and mother. All these I have kept since I was a boy." He answered. When Jesus heard this, he said to the man, "You still lack one thing. Sell all that you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me." Well, when the man heard this, he became very sad because he was a man of great wealth. And Jesus looked at him and said, "How hard it is for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. Indeed, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." Those who heard this asked, "Who then can be saved?" A blind man was sitting by the roadside begging as Jesus approached Jericho. And when he heard the crowd going by, he asked them what was happening, and they told him, "Jesus of Nazareth is passing by." And so he cried out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Now those who led the way rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he called out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And Jesus stopped, and he ordered the man to be brought to him. When he drew near, he asked, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord, I want to see," he replied. And Jesus said to him, "Receive your sight. Your faith has saved you." And immediately he regained his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. And when all the people saw it, they also praised God. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. And there was a man there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. He wanted to see Jesus and who Jesus was. But being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. And so he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see Jesus because he was passing that way. And when Jesus came to the spot, he looked up and said, "Zacchaeus, Come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. And so he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And all the people saw this and began to mutter, he's gone to be the guest of a sinner. Now Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I'll pay back 4 times the amount. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a child of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost.
There we go. Thank you, Cliff, for that. Just audio, but it was very effective. I think I saw popping in there Jane Martin. Is she out there and ready to tell? Waiting for a message. Yes.
Yeah.
All righty. Jane, I've already introduced you as being from Calgary, Alberta, and we're so glad that you are with us. Please get into your telling. I have you down for the Jesus restores a demon-possessed man. Oh, we just lost a visual. Well,
Yeah.
Let's see if she comes back. Good. So go ahead.
Thank you. They sailed to the region of the Gerasene, which is across the lake. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the impure spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had gone into him. And the demons begged Jesus repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and he gave them permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank and into the lake and was drowned. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off to tell everyone in the town and countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they found Jesus, they found the man who had the demons gone out of him sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had been cast out begged Jesus to let him go with him. But Jesus sent him away, replying, "Report back. Tell the town what much Jesus had done for you." So he left them and told all the town how much Jesus had done for him.
Thank you, Jane. It was great. So glad that you joined us. We might have Tom Boomershine and Drew Willard. Tom, I introduced earlier, of course, the founder of the Network of Biblical Storytellers. Drew, if you're out there, you need to come in the backstage area where the rest of us have been. Tom, I just sent you a text to that end. So I'm waiting to see which one of the two of you appears. I'm not in control of who pops on next. I'm just getting messages from our tech support on this. So we'll give it a few seconds. See if he appears. No one is in the waiting room. So I noticed we only have about 3 minutes left. So what I would do is, if you contacted me earlier and wanted to tell a story, I apologize. We got a little waylaid tonight and there's been some technical issues. We're not sure if on our end or your end, but please do sign up for Lighting the Fire and you can tell your story then. But I think what we'll do is, we've gone just about an hour and a half, which was our plan, and just to sign off. So we thank you all, those who have told, those who have been watching. We're glad that you have been a part of this. Again, please do sign up, register for the virtual festival gathering, and do so quickly if you want to get the early bird registration. So thank you very much, and I will see you in 4 weeks, and then join Lori Rugi Jones in 2 weeks for her Telling in the Wilderness workshop. So thanks very much, and we will see you next time. So long.